watches, they don't have cell phones, they don't think in terms of, oh, it's 8 o'clock, I have that meeting. So time use gets really difficult in those circumstances. So that first question, how much time do people spend collecting water? Those mostly come from multi-purpose national surveys. I'm going to just plow through this, that are administered nationwide in a lot of countries. But one thing you'll notice is they're mostly in rich countries. So if you look at Africa, if you look at South America, this is as of 2004, which is the most recent I could find. There might be a few extra studies in Africa or Central and South America, but not a lot of data there. So what do we know about what time is used for, or how much time do water projects save? So this is in hindsight, I think this is a terrible slide because it's geeky. It just gives you paper references but doesn't say anything else, as if you're just going to go pull these papers off the web and read them. So let me just focus on the last three really briefly. So Gibson and Mace is in Ethiopia, and here what they did is they came after a project was implemented in 50-some villages, and they said, how much time did you save because of the water project? And they find pretty striking results. They find water collection times plummet from 3 to 6 hours per woman per day to less than 30 minutes. And they find some evidence that there's more time, that time is spent more on social activities. The problem is that they're asking people to recall 2 years ago, number one. So that's sort of the main problem with that. The Elahi and Grimard in Pakistan is a cross-sectional study, meaning they looked at data in places that have good water infrastructure, places that don't have good water infrastructure, and they compared how women spend their time in those two different places. Now, if you think about this for a second, you'll see here, going back to my second objective, if thinking about this as a scholar, if you found, for example, that women in places with better water infrastructure were more likely to have jobs for wages, well, you might think that it's not that the infrastructure caused that, it's that cities are more likely to have water infrastructure, and people in cities are more likely to have jobs for wages. So cross-sectional studies are really hard to tease apart what's causing what. All you can really get at is correlation. And the third study I just wanted to, it's a really interesting study in Mozambique. It's quite old now, and it's not a very big sample size. They were basically comparing two different villages. So Itanda is a place where people are walking. The standpipe is 2.5 miles away, and people are spending about 5 hours a day collecting water. So this is one of your worst case scenarios, including 3 hours a day queuing. So they're waiting in line for about 3 hours in the town of Itanda. In Namawa, I think is how you might say that, most people are within a football field of a water collection point, and they're spending on average 10 minutes a day collecting water. And what I think is interesting about this study, they did a little bit on time, but what this first table is showing you is water. How much water do they collect? So again, Itanda is the place where people are spending about 5 hours, and they're consuming about just a little under a gallon per day. You can see that's about 4 times higher in the place with better water access. What's also really interesting is if you look at where that extra water is going, you can see about 70% of the water in the place with better access is going for bathing and washing, whereas only 43% is going to those purposes in Itanda. And they mention in the paper as well that there's most children in Namau were not bathing every day, and a lot of people in Itanda were not bathing every day, and were in fact not cooking food because of water scarcity. So here's a little bit on how people were spending their time. So they found that, again, this is cross-sectional, but people were spending less time collecting water, more time resting in the place with convenient water supply, and more time on housework. but no significant difference in agricultural work. So that's what we have in the literature. So here are our sort of key research questions. How much time do water carriers save when a source is closer to the home? And I'll have a little bit to say about that. Maybe this is a bit repetitive. I think I've said some of these things. Are these, is the time savings spent on market-based income generating jobs? Are they socializing more? Are they working in the farm more? Are girls more likely to attend school? This is the question of indirect time savings. Does this get reallocated among household members? And the last research question for us is trying to figure out ways of measuring time use in populations like this. Okay, so a little bit on our research design. So we have 3 villages. All 3 of them are mostly relying on unprotected springs. They're traveling on average 1 to 2 hours. So some of you I know have been to these sites. You'll recognize this. We're pretty close to the capital of Addis here in yellow. Busa is the field office that Water Action works out of, and these are the 3 villages, Beshi-Kiltu, Kalecho Gerbi, and Tutakunshe. All the households have GPS points. We tag them with a GPS unit, so those little yellow dots that you can see are actually the households that we interviewed in 2009, looking from Dawa up to Beshi-Kiltu. And here is a more entertaining picture of what this looks like. This is looking the other direction from the top of Beshi-Kiltu down. So our research design is to try to get around this cross-sectional problem. We want to say, not just comparing 2 different areas at one point in time. We want what's called a panel data set. We want to say, we know how people spend their time before the water point comes in, and then we want to see how it changes. So we want a pre and post. Now if you think about that for a second, you'll also say, well, maybe something else is going on in the region that's changing how people spend their time. For example, suppose teff is an agricultural product. It's what most people grow there. Suppose the price of teff goes way, way up. Well, you might expect everybody in all the regions in this area to spend more time farming because they're reacting to this higher teff price. So you want a pre and post research design, but you also want to control for other things that might be happening in the region. So that's why this design is set up the way it is. So in 2009, we came and did baseline surveys in Tutakunshe and Beshi-Kiltu. The water droplet indicates when the project came online. So that was the spring of, in fact, 2010 for Beshi-Kiltu. We came back in 2010, and I call it now post in Beshi-Kiltu because that indicates now they have the water project, so we can compare pre and post. But you see that Tutakunshe still has not received a water system yet. They're scheduled to receive one in 2011, so they are our control. In case something else is going on at the regional level, you would expect to see it in Tutakunshe. And as I said, we're going back next week to start the 2011 field work. Kalecho Gerbi now has a system that has just come online, I think in the last month, right? Yep. So now the surveys will be post for Beshi-Kiltu and Kalecho Gerbi, but we'll still have Tutakunshe as sort of our control. Any questions about that? Okay. Just quickly, here are our sample sizes to give you a sense of how many people we talked to. So in 2009, Leah and Utah worked with local staff as translators, and the 2 of them were basically the interviewers. So we talked to 76 households in Beshi-Kiltu, 73 in Tutakunshe. Last summer, we hired 15 college students from Addis Ababa University, and Leah and Utah were the supervisors of the field staff. So that enabled us to do a lot more interviews. So 143, 180, and 133 households. We collected time use information for a lot more, about 1,500 household members in 2010, and among the water carriers, we have 159, 125, and 198. So this is a pretty respectable amount of data to work with. how did we select people? We had village leaders construct what are called sub-village maps. That's how folks there think of the areas. So this is the sub-village map, a social map for Tutakunche. Again, you can't read it, but what they're describing here are the sort of neighborhoods, the sub-villages. So what we do is we randomly decided which order we would interview the sub-villages in. And then within a sub-village, we again randomly generated which households we would talk to. We kept interviewing until we got to 30% of that sub-village, and then we moved on to the next one. So takeaway here is we worked hard to make sure we're not cherry picking. We're talking to a random subset of folks in these communities. So just some quick demographics. Household size on average about 6. 3 of them are children. Pretty low levels of education. People are mostly using fuel wood, dung, and to a lesser extent kerosene for cooking. Most are dependent on subsistence farming. Only 22% have non-farm income. Here's my intemperacy number. Only 9% have cell phones, which is actually pretty unusual in Africa. The places that I've been outside Ethiopia, you see the cell phone coverage rates are crazy. They're very, very, very high. Almost everyone has a cell phone. This is a rural area where we don't see people using wristwatches or cell phones very often. And we do see pretty big health impacts. 4 to 8% had diarrhea in the past 2 weeks. That's fairly high. So this is data from just 2009 on water sources that people are using. So the second column here, so I'll talk about this in just a minute, but people have a choice of sources. There's in fact lots of sources a household can choose from. On average, people are relying just on one. The average self-reported time to a source is about a half an hour. That's one way, and that's just walking. Filling in containers is another 31 in Beshi-Kiltu, and some people are using donkeys. Now again, as a scholar, I would point out the problem here is you want these to be very comparable, right? Because Tutakunche is your control. You want to use them as the counterfactual. If Beshi-Kiltu had not gotten the water system, what would things have looked like? The problem here is even from the baseline, we see that there is some differences between the two villages in water collection times. Again, you can get around that with something called difference in difference, which I'll come back to. Most people are in Beshi-Kiltu are using latrines. And I think that is tied to a hygiene education program that was done there in just before 2009. This is from Tutakunche in 2009. So the sanitation numbers may have gone down. I don't know when their sanitation hygiene intervention happens. And this is to show you that men. Yes.
Go back to the previous slide if you would.
Yes.
Huge difference there, open defecation.
Yeah.
Are there any environmental reasons why it would be so hugely different, like there's no place to do it? Are they both rural?
Yeah, they're right next to each other. They're both rural. It's not environmental. It's more hygiene education and getting, yeah. These hygiene education programs are pretty effective at getting people to build latrines. Yeah.
Could I ask a question on your previous slide?
Yes.
Did you calibrate their self-reporting of time so that we had some idea when they said it was so much time, how much time was it really?
Yeah. Can I punt that one for a while? Put it on hold? It's a great question. I'll tell you about what we're thinking of in terms of calibration. So there are some men and boys that are collecting water in these villages. Mostly it is women. It's mostly not young girls, but still 20% under 16 is pretty high. By my watch, it's 20 to 8, so I need to speed up here. So I'm going to skip this. This is by way of saying there's another paper that we're looking at how people choose these water sources, and we collect a lot of information there. Let me skip that as well. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about how you measure time use and whether we can calibrate it at all. So we use 3 different approaches. The first is the standard approach, like the big national surveys that I showed you with the map. And that is basically saying, how much time did you spend yesterday collecting water? So this is the question that we use. So this, I'm going to call this self-reported time. But if you don't have a watch and you don't have a good sense of what 30 minutes is, we think that could be a problem. So we also have an approach that we steal from something called participatory rural appraisal that we call the macaroni method. And then another approach that we sort of dreamed up in the car on the way home called the Molina method, which is a pictorial diary. So if you want to do a contemporaneous self-completed diary, just like the gold standard in the US for an illiterate population, you can use this sort of approach. So let me tell you a little bit more about how this works. So what we do is we figure out what are the main categories of activities, this pictorial approach. 14 main categories of activities. Here's 4 of them. And we show you these 14 pictures. So we lay them out in front of you. We say, here are all the things you might have spent time on yesterday, or you might spend time on. Then you say, which of these did you actually spend time on yesterday? So suppose of those 14, you only spent time on 6 of them. So you take the other 8 away. Now you say, here's a cup with macaroni in it. When did you wake up yesterday? When did you go to sleep? The enumerator calculates how many hours you were awake. For every 20 minutes, they put 1 macaroni in the cup. So now you have a cup of macaroni. Each one represents 20 minutes. And you say, I want you to put the macaroni